What's up, guys? Pro Gamer 690 here, and today we're gonna be doing let's see, 3 true scary funeral home ghost stories. Yeah. So let's get into it.
Funeral home cleaning. Several years ago, I was working in juvenile corrections in eastern Kentucky. My best friend, let's call her Jennifer, had her own cleaning business, and one of the clients was a funeral home. There were 2 funeral homes that Jennifer cleaned, and both were very busy. Of course, you can't clean a funeral home while they're open, so you would have to wait until night. I don't know if you've ever been to a funeral home after hours, but they are fairly spooky. Late one night, I happened to be in my office preparing for an upcoming audit. It was 1 in the morning, so I really had no business being there. But back in those days, I was single and working 80 hours a week and getting paid for only 40. That was one of the disadvantages of being management and being salary.
Hold up. You're working 80 hours a week, but you're only getting paid 40. No. I'm gonna be working 80 hours, 85 I think, 85 or 80 hours a week. Dude, you pay me $100. You kidding? I'm not staying up that late just to work. But if it's for 100, yeah, I'll stay up.
Anyways, I received a panic call from Jennifer, and it was hard for me to understand her at first. I was afraid that something had happened to her. She finally calmed down and told me that she was at the funeral home and to come quick. Fortunately, that particular funeral home was very close by. I made it to the funeral home in record time. It was 1 in the morning in a fairly small area, so there was no one around to get in my way. Jennifer and one of her employees met me outside, which I found odd. Jennifer was afraid that there was someone in the funeral home that was messing with them. Jennifer and her employee had taken a break and were sitting on a couch that faced the 2 restrooms. Both of these restrooms had been cleaned and the lights on. While sitting on the couch chatting, they both saw the lights in the men's restroom go out. Figuring the light bulb went bad, Jennifer went in to change it. When she entered the restroom, the light switch had been turned off. I know what you might be thinking. Maybe it was one of those motion lights and the lights went off due to them sitting still. I can tell you, that type of innovation takes its time getting to places like where I'm from, and they still do it the old-fashioned way. The wall switch is the only way the lights are controlled in that building. Thinking that it had to be a ghost, Jennifer called me to come see what was going on. I was convinced that it was someone in the building who was up to no good. Well, I covered every inch of that funeral home, including the area where the bodies are prepared for the funerals. I will never go back in one of those rooms again. I found no one in the building. I ended up staying the rest of the night and helping Jennifer with the cleaning. That same night, I was in the lounge area of the funeral home vacuuming. I had moved out all the tables and chairs and was in the center of the room with my vacuum. All of a sudden, I felt 3 sharp tugs on the barn coat that I was wearing. I turned around real quick to see no one around. There was no...
I can't even explain it. If I feel 3 hard tugs, on a coat I'm wearing. 1, 2, 3. Be like, I won't even turn around. I'll be like, bye. I'll be like, just bye. Bye, bitch. Bye bye. See you later. You dying tonight, not me. I'm black.
way that anyone could have tugged on my coat and made it out of that...
Black people always die first in movies, but still in real life, black people still die first. Damn. It's
room without me seeing them. After that night, I ended up going with Jennifer to the funeral home to clean each week. We would hear things or see something out of the corner of our eyes, but but nothing like we experienced that night. Haunted funeral home. It started when my boyfriend's father bought the funeral home and wanted my boyfriend and me to move out of state to take.
Alright. If you don't know, but Horror Studio 1 is actually a girl. But she is using a voice editor. A voice changer to make her voice like a guy.
Take care of it because his parents didn't want to move out of state. So I quit my job and moved out of state with my boyfriend to help his parents take care of the funeral home. When my boyfriend and I first got to the funeral home, it was big, spacious, and a bit creepy. The outside was beautiful, as well as the inside, but the place has many doors, all of which eventually led back to the main room. My boyfriend often sees dark figures, mostly on this one side, near the side door that leads to the apartment on top of the funeral home. Of course, no one lives on top of the funeral home. It was too scary. I've never seen anything the whole time I've been there, but one time I was going to use the fax and computer to look for a job. Being the weirdo that I am, I went to the funeral home alone. I went to the back door, and the back door was unlocked, so I went inside and turned on the lights and went to the office. I was faxing my resumes and surfing the web for jobs when all of a sudden, the computer just shuts off. So I figured it's time to leave. I didn't feel anything and wasn't scared until I got close to the back door. Somehow my body was telling me to run. It got cold in the little hallway by the back door, and I felt goosebumps all over my body. I ran towards the door, not looking back, just opened the door and closed it and locked it from outside. Ever since then, I've never gone back to the funeral home alone. My boyfriend's uncle had a similar experience at the funeral home. He came to the funeral home to help my boyfriend cut the grass and rake the leaves. He got there before my boyfriend and thought my boyfriend was inside. So he went to the same back door that I went to and found it unlocked. He thought my boyfriend was in there and walked to the same spot where I felt something. He said he called my boyfriend's name, and it was dark inside and no lights. He got super scared when he realized no one was there. He ended up leaving, and ever since then, my boyfriend's uncle won't go into the funeral home by himself. If he has to shovel snow, cut the grass, or rake the leaves, he would bring his own lawnmower or his own shovel. My boyfriend has had many experiences at that funeral home, and the scariest experience, when the funeral is done and everyone leaves, my boyfriend and I would make sure that the doors are all locked before we leave. There are days when we would come to get the mail and the side door and that back door would be unlocked. We always thought that someone broke in and even went inside to check, but we never find anyone. My boyfriend says one time he opened the funeral for a family to bring little things to the funeral, and when he locked up, all the doors were locked. He said he went to the side door and somehow it was unlocked. He said hello, and someone with a male voice answered him back saying hello to him too. He got really freaked out and wouldn't go back.
I can't even explain. I would get the hell out of here once I would never go back if I had one experience there. No. Bad.
Inside.
Okay.
When I got off work, he made me go with him to search the place, and like always, we would never find anyone. No matter how many times you lock the side and back door, next time we come back, it would be unlocked. Then, a couple days after that door incident with my boyfriend, He said while we were sleeping in bed, he swears he saw a tall, dark figure walk around our bed and came to his side and got on top of him. He said he tried to scream for me to wake up, but I couldn't hear him. When he finally broke free, he woke me up, and he was drooling all over his pillow. He was so scared that we slept with the bedroom door closed, and we both prayed before bed and put crosses up around the house and inside our room. 3 weeks later, he drove out of state to see his parents, and his mom took him to see a shaman lady, and she said that a female ghost from the funeral liked him a lot. It was the female ghost that answered him, disguising her voice as the male voice that answered him, and was the one that followed him home. The shaman lady told my boyfriend that she told the spirit to leave and everything should be fine now. I was home alone in our apartment when my boyfriend went out of state. The night my boyfriend left, I had rolled over to his side and I could have sweared something was on top of me because I looked at the alarm clock and I could swear I was up but somehow still asleep too. I remember hearing myself praying and singing a Christian song in my head. I woke up singing the Christian song out loud, and only 2 minutes had passed. I wasn't scared or anything. I just prayed, and then thought it was my dream and went back to bed. The next day, late at night, my boyfriend told me what the shaman lady said, which creeped me out. After that, we haven't had any other experiences with the funeral home. We had put alarms up in the funeral home because the doors keep unlocking by themselves, and we put a bolt on the side door. So even if it unlocks, no one can get in. I doubt anyone would want to come in. I'm just so glad when his parents decided to sell the funeral home. I can't see ghosts, but my boyfriend seems to attract them and he can see them. I'll have to write about our apartment that we live in now in my next story. Hopefully, I'll have it up before we move out in September. He's still at the funeral home. Although I've had many experiences with the supernatural, I'm gonna start with the most recent and go from there. To give you some background information, I work in a funeral home as an administrative assistant in Kirtland, New Mexico. I know, a funeral home, but I'm perfectly comfortable there. I've been alone in there on a number of occasions while the directors are off on a service, which is when I notice things more often than not. The main reason for this is because when the building is empty of others, it is usually quiet, except for the music that is constant during the day. But when others are there, there's a lot of talking and conversations going on, which tends to block the sound of anything spiritual going on, or you just brush off the sounds as someone else in the building with you. My office sits at the front of the building, to the left of the front entryway, with the bathrooms on the other side of my office, as well as the door to the prep room. The arrangement room is catty-corner to my office door, with a chapel to the right of the entrance, and 2 more offices and the break room behind that. The funeral home used to be a private residence, and then was a church, before it finally became a funeral home. I'm not exactly sure how long the building has been there, but plan on doing some research on it when I have the time to do so without interruption. My first time alone in the building was probably about 3 weeks ago, during my first week there. Jess and Brian had to travel to another city for the services that day, so I was left to man the fort, so to speak, from 8 a.m. until they returned at around 3:30 p.m. that afternoon. The first thing to happen was the sound of the front door opening and closing, including the little dinger going off, so I jumped up from the company computer, where I was working on some folders and books for a family, to go greet whoever it was that came through the front door, only to find it was no one in the foyer. I shrugged it off as my imagination, and went back into the office to continue with my work. As the minutes passed, I had forgotten all about the odd sounds of the front door and the dinger going off, and was deep into my work at that time, concentrating really hard. By this time, it was about 10:45 a.m. I had been there for a couple hours alone already and was doing just fine. It was then when I heard someone walking through the building from behind me, so I once again left the computer where I was working to go see if someone came in, and I missed hearing the dinger of the door going off. I started checking the rooms in the front of the building, making a complete circle to the back and around to the front of the building again to find no one there. All I could think at this point was, it has got to be in my imagination, and so I went back to my office to resume working again. About 10 minutes or so had passed by this time, and it was probably around 11 a.m. This time, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to look and no one was there yet again. I said out loud, "Hello, can I help you with something? Are you curious because I'm new here, or are you wondering if I can tell you that you're here?" I didn't get an answer, much as I would have liked one, just to know for sure that I wasn't losing my mind. But the activity stopped after that.
Ah, sorry. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. Alright, guys, I'm back.
Well, for the rest of the day anyways. Whoever or whatever is there in that building isn't harmful, or I would have felt very uncomfortable there alone, I'm sure. I have talked to Jess about it, which has been there for 3 years now, and she admits that she has had some experiences there as well, but never anything harmful, just more curious than anything. We do have some remains of an unclaimed person in our garage that we can't do anything with, so his remains stay there, but neither Jess or I know if it's actually him that's there, or if it's the previous owners of the building. What I've done, though, is when I enter the building, if no one's in the front entryway or close by, I say hello, Teddy, as a just in case. In fact, he is the one who remains in our garage. If it's not him, I'm sure that eventually whoever it is will let me know in some way, and I'll change my new habits, I guess. Until then, I like to think it is Teddy, and he's just looking for some acknowledgement to the fact that he is who he is. I do realize that this could be my imagination, or even what could be chalked up to my nervousness of being alone in a funeral home. However, I myself do not believe this is the case, since I've never felt uncomfortable there since beginning my job there, or even before obtaining the job itself. Thank you for all the chance to submit one of my stories, and comments are welcome, as long as they aren't mean. I hope to post more of my stories soon.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you guys do, peace. I'm gonna be uploading more too. So, peace out. Do, 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 do.